Welcome to the Nicole Osei Report. I'm Nicole Osei, and today we're going to be having a spiritual conversation. Have you ever been in a situation to where you've met someone for the very first time, but you had a gnawing feeling, a gut feeling about the person that either positive or negative that turns out down the line was correct? Have you ever been in a situation where you had a dream about a person, place, or thing, and when you woke up, you put it to memory, maybe even wrote it down, and it turns out down the line, those things came to pass? Or some people say they've been at home alone and they can swear that there's someone in the room with them. Their hair stands on end and they just feel a presence. Some people say they can smell the cologne or perfume of someone that has already crossed over. Now, some may say that these things are just coincidence, but others say this is spirit at work. Joining me today is Olga Mandrake. She is a spiritual healer, medium, and expert in Akashic records readings. Welcome, Olga.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for having me here. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and I'm so excited to talk to you about this, and I want to get into the work that you do, but I want to start at the beginning. Can you talk to me about when you realized that you were born with these special gifts?
Actually, I don't know if I realized, but it started kind of rough a little bit for me because I was around 7 years old, and my family we moved from one house to a townhouse complex. So there were like 10 houses, and there was like a patio in the middle. And there one day at night, I started seeing lost spirits because at that time I
Mm,
didn't know what they were. But now I realized they were lost spirits because I saw like homeless people scared. They were very scared. And I didn't know what to do because I was very scared too to see them. And I told my mom because after, a week or so, I was like, what's happening? This is not a one thing. And I told her, but my mom, she just said what was said at that time. She said it was the devil. And that scared me a lot because I was so young and that I was like extremely scared. Instead of helping me, that didn't help me at all. So we lived there for about 7, 8 years. And the other interesting thing is that when sometimes we see children, in the patio, and they were talking about that they were scared, that they saw things. So I thought maybe everybody, we all experience the same thing, right? I didn't see like something different because they were talking about that. And I was like, okay, well, it seems it's happening to everybody. And those were very difficult years for me because I couldn't sleep at night. I was like so bothered by that because I felt their fear. And and it was our fear was mixed. So we moved, like after we moved everything, I thought, oh God, that nightmare is over. But then some years later, or I don't remember months, my sisters, two of my sisters were leaving to a party, and in that moment I knew they were going to have an accident. But they were,
mm,
driving away when I knew, and there was no cell phones at that time. And when this accident happened, I was like, wow, my God, what was that? How did I know that before? I never told anybody what was happening since, when I remember I was mentioning at church. My mom was very Catholic, and when I mentioned it at church, people was well, like very skeptic. They were telling me, oh, maybe you ate something, maybe you imagine it. So nobody kind of believed me. And I was like, okay, this is strange. So I stopped talking. I stopped talking to people and sharing what was happening to me. In some way, I ostracized myself because I felt I couldn't talk to anybody about this. So after that accident, I was like, I need to find out, what is happening. Or I don't know what is this. We were not living in that complex anymore. And I went back and see one of the ladies that lived there, and I told her, do you know anything about this apartment complex or this place? Because I saw things. And she said, well, it was a cemetery. 100 years before, this was a cemetery.
mm,
So I was like, wow, okay. So many years later, then I started understanding what happened there, like when we die, and it really is so important to believe in God, because some people don't believe in God, so they stay there. They think that death is the end, so they stay there. Their spirit doesn't know what to do. Even though if they see God, or they see, well, they will see light. They won't see, a person. They will see light. They will not believe it, because they say, well, I never believe in God, so I don't know what is this. Or
So
people
that keeps
who,
them trapped.
they are trapped, right? Or people who have like made a lot of bad things. They're afraid that God will punish them. So that's why it's so important to have a relationship with God, because we are a spirit. We are incarnated spirits. We will go back to God or to the spirit world after we leave this physical incarnation. So it's very
You know,
important that we have a relationship with God.
oh, true. That's very important. And one of the things that you've said that I've heard from a lot of people who have abilities is that when they manifest at a young age, and then of course you tell the adults in your life, parents, siblings, friends, whomever, and a lot of people, if they haven't experienced themselves, that's often met with either fear or it's just shut down. How did you talked a bit about how you were feeling when people were saying like, oh no, that's just your mom said that's the devil, or other people were very skeptical. How did you end up honing your gifts and leaning into them more so than shutting them out, which some people take that route?
Right. Well, I was living in Mexico at that time, and when I was in my 30s, I moved to the United States. I moved to California, and there were a lot of psychics. There was in every corner you saw a psychic, and I was started wondering, what is this? All these psychic people. I had a friend at that time, and she invited me to have. She lived kind of far away from where I was living, and my daughter was already born. So we were on the way there, and my daughter got sick, and she was throwing up. And that's a weird thing, because I always had extra clothes for her, because that's when you have children. So I had extra clothes, and that day I didn't have extra clothes. So I I told my boyfriend, you know what, let's go back, and I don't want them to meet my daughter all, smelling puke in some way. So we went back and we changed her, and I got extra clothes, and we were on the way there again, and it happened again, Nicole. She started throwing up.
Mm,
And then, but I was driving, and I told my boyfriend, you know what? I feel the car is not doing well. Something is wrong with the car. And then he told me, I had a dream last night that we were going to have an accident. And I told him, oh my
mm,
God, let's go back. Forget about it. This is just a sign, And we went back, and I called my friend. I told her. She got so upset. She said, oh, you're so rude. We have a lot of food for you, and you should come. I told her, we don't have other car, we don't, I don't know anybody who can lend us a car or who can take us there. Please forgive me. So I talked to her a couple of weeks later, because she stopped talking to me. She was so mad. And I told her what happened. And she was the first person who told me, Olga, you have an ability, You need to develop it. You need to do something about it. You have an ability. I was the first person who told me you have an ability. And then I started looking for teachers and somebody who could help me develop it. And unfortunately, even though there were a lot of people in California, people always want to start with, trying since the beginning, a lot of weeks of development, very expensive. And I was, with one daughter, with my boyfriend. So I couldn't, afford in some way some of their services, because they were very expensive. But that's how I started. I met a psychologist who gave classes about meeting your guardian angel. And then that's how I started, that's how I started for the first time seeing an angel. Because as I told you, I was seeing different things. I was not seeing precisely angels or the light. So that's how I started. And then from there, I met a teacher who it was not a good experience because I don't know what kind of exercises we were doing. And that day at night, I almost got raped by a spirit. And then I told the psychologist, I told her, this is what happened to me. And she said, oh, that lady should not be opening some doors that she doesn't know how to handle, you know?
Right.
And then I didn't go back to her. I don't think I even told her that what had happened to me. So then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go and just ask God to help me because that experience was very scary. You know, it's like when
I
you
can
cannot
imagine.
stop a spirit, to enter your house. So that was very scary. So that's how I met Science of Mind. For me, Science of Mind has been like a rock. That's how I've been, knowing more about God, more than my own abilities. It was like more learning about God, so I could feel strong, because I felt I needed God more than anything, even though I was Catholic, but I felt that I needed God at that time very, very strongly. So that's how
Yes.
I started, taking different classes, but mainly through a spiritual services like Science of Mind.
Because these types of this phenomena, it goes beyond religion, and so I completely understand what you're saying. You had mentioned, you talked earlier about your first experiences with seeing spirits that were trapped and, in some sort of distress, and then you had just mentioned the first time that you saw an angel. Can you talk to me about that? What happened and what was that like?
That was very, very, because at the beginning I couldn't hear what they say. It's just really a development. I was just heard like some noises, and I told them, I don't understand what you're telling me. So the first time that I saw an angel, it was like million dots of light. I saw like the figure of an angel, but it was just light, millions of dots of light, and it was just I felt this peace inside of me, and so it was something we start developing our hearing, our clairvoyance, all of that as we go, as we decide to really accept this development or these gifts. So it was then I started calling angel. I started learning more about angels, and there are so many books about angels that can help us now. At that time I met Doreen Virtue, who was big on angels, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, she left everything. She left everything, and she converted to Christianity. And then, well, see, if you know her, you know the story, which didn't
Yes.
end up well. But I was following her. I took several classes with her, and it helped me. It did help me. I am not gonna say that it not. It did help me. I wish I could have talked to her one on one, but then by then she was famous, and we could only see her in you know when we take classes or ask questions. So
And can you talk about how important it is for someone who has an ability and wants to develop it to find someone to help them hone that? Because as you mentioned, these things can be scary at first, and a lot of people unfortunately may be surrounded by people who say just shut that off, don't talk about it. How important is it for someone, if you're advising them, to find some type of teacher that can, as I said, help them develop this gift?
I think it's very, very important, Nicole, to have a real good connection with your heart. We need to go back to our heart and leave our brains behind, because with the brain we reason, but with the heart, we open out the door to intuition, and your intuition will guide you. This is how really, God talked to us through our intuition, but we don't know that. But God start talking to us through our intuition. That's why meditation is so important. So my advice would be, take care of your body, because your body is your portal to the light. We need our bodies always. So we need to watch what we eat. We need to watch what we see. We need to try to do a little bit of exercise. Probably not outside when it's 100 degrees here in Texas, but it's very important to have our bodies, with good hydration. So because we are drinking water in bottles of water, so at least put a, like a pinch of pink salt in that water, so your body be really has more hydration. Because it's this the water, a lot of people say that it's dead because it's filtrated and through filtration, through whatever. But take care of the body and then have a real good connection with your heart. Meditate and talk to your heart and ask your heart to guide you. Because and ask God, also to guide you. If you will really start developing, having a real good relationship with God to help us, to guide us, God will guide us. Our heart will guide us, but we need to have that development. And I think that would be the best, because only God knows, or your heart will know what is the best for you in a certain circumstance.
Can you talk about the connection between meditation and opening oneself up spiritually? I meditate every single day, and I've seen how that's helped me in my journey. Can you discuss that more? Because you kind of touched on that, and I think that's a very important point. I think even if someone may be skeptical about the spiritual realm, they would be open to meditation.
Right. Well, I really believe this, that when we pray, we talk to God. But when we meditate, we give a space to God to answer, right? If we're
Mm.
always talking, listening to music, talking, 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 when do we have that silence? We need that silence. When we meditate, we have that silence and we start developing, our relationship with God, because we are always talking, right? So we need to, and also meditation help us to calm the mind, which is very important, because in science of mind, people say that we have a monkey mind because it's always, talking, talking, talking. So we need to, I remember when I was younger, my mind had a lot of thoughts, like I was jumping from one thought to another. And with meditation, it has, calm down. Sometimes I'm in front of somebody and I don't know what to say. It's weird. I ask like some questions, how are you? Or just simple questions. And sometimes I don't know what else to ask if that person is not open to have a conversation. I don't know what else to ask. And my man is not talking at all. So I think
Yeah.
it's very important to learn to quiet our mind. I think it's very crucial, and that's, at least for me, through meditation, that's how you achieve it. Have you experienced that, Nicole, that through meditation you have a quiet mind?
Yes. And it took me a while to get there because I first I said, like, let me start with 5 minutes. Let me
Hmm.
start with the 10, 15, 20, 25, because that was the hardest thing, was just to quiet my mind down. My thoughts were kind of just racing, but over time I was able to do that. And when you finally hit that, it's kind of a surreal feeling, because we are so used to having so much going on at all times, so much stimuli. And
Right,
as you said, it was when you get quiet, when you're able to quiet your mind, you can get an answer. You can really hear
right, definitely. It's very
on a spiritual
important.
level.
So you have already experienced it. So I'm glad, because then it's not only me telling you, you have experienced it yourself.
And when did you realize that this was now going to be your mission, that you were going to dedicate your life to using your gift to help other people? And were there any cases that even shocked you? Because sometimes even when we experience these things, it can be shocking when everything just lines up and there's just no doubt that this is what's happening.
Well, that's a very good question, because I was living in Mexico and I decided to live by myself. That is not very common in Mexico, and I was not common more than 35 years or 30 years ago. So I rent an apartment and I was happy there. It was a little, it only had like about 4 or 5 apartments, so it was a little building. So I was happy there until one day in the morning, I saw a woman that was giving me her hand and was asking me to follow her. She was giving me her hand, and she was just telling me with your hand, come, come. I was scared to death, I was scared. And I didn't know what to do, so I told my mom, and she said, ask God to take away the gift, because you cannot handle it. So we were praying, and the lady follow me there, and I told her, the lady is here. And I was so scared that in that moment I didn't have the courage to ask her, what do you need, why are you here, I didn't
Mhm.
have the courage. I was so scared that I didn't know what to do. So I was like several weeks at my mom's house, and then I returned to my apartment. And a neighbor told me, where were you, Olga? I haven't seen you in weeks. What happened? And I explained to her what happened to me. And she said, and then she explained, because in front of the apartment there was like this, it was kind of not a building, but you just see like a fence, a stone
Mhm.
fence that it was big, a really big, and I was told when I moved there that it was a like a factory, and that they closed it. So I thought, okay, that's okay, a factory. But then she explained, she said, no, Olga, it was not a factory. There was a motel. It was a hotel or a motel there, but it was, I don't know, there was some kind that it was not, I don't know if there were some permits were not open, or it was a clandestine hotel or something like that there, or motel.
Mhm.
And a lady was killed there. So that's when
Mm.
they shut it down. So she said, probably the lady that you saw was the lady that was killed. And you know what? I felt so bad, Nicole. I thought, this is it. I'm going to develop this ability, and I'm going to help people, because I felt bad that she came to us for help and I couldn't help her. I really felt really bad. So that's when I decided I'm going to develop this and find out how can I help people, because I don't know, maybe she needed just, a mass or some prayer. So she needed to contact somebody. And now probably I'm sure I hope that she got help talking to another human being or another person. But that's how it started. That's how I decided to help people.
And as a medium, when you are encountering a spirit, how do they present to you?
Well, most of the time I can see them, because when we die, we kept something that this spiritual is called it, the spiritism call it perispirit. So I think that's what it, we don't have the body, but we have something similar to the body that we can recognize the person. So I can see that, because after I was able to see, that's interesting, because at that time I was not able to see angels, but I was able to see souls. I was not able to see angels, but I was seeing the lost souls that were where I was living when I was 7, and I saw that lady very clearly. It was very clear, because she was coming like around when the sun is starting to come out. You see that there is light. It was light. It was very clear when I saw her. So most of the time, I can see them like that, but especially for angels, they need more energy. They need our energy so that you can see them like that. So mostly I talk to them through my mind, or during my dream time. When they come, it's very easy. It's very easy to see them, and a lot of us get information through dreams, because it's for them it's easier, and for us too.
Yeah, that's true. And I wanted to ask you, like on that note, for people that believe that they have an ability, but they haven't honed it yet. And let's say they're starting meditation and they finally are able to quiet their mind and they get that first answer where they hear something. There is a message in there. What advice do you have for those people in terms of recognizing that that's exactly what that is? Because some people have said, I don't know what to trust. Like, is this, they don't know if this is real or not, even though they're experiencing this for the first times.
Well, they can ask several times the same question. They can ask, "Are you in the light? Are you coming from the light?" You can ask that question, and if they are not coming from the light, they go. You can ask that question. When you
Mm.
are encountering those, as you said, those situations, we can always ask. And I always recommend ask Archangel Michael to protect you always, because
Yes.
he's I cannot tell you how powerful he is. And he has his army of angels. So I always ask Archangel Michael, please help me, please guide me. Of course, I'm always asking God to guide me, to give me wisdom, to move on with wisdom, in this lifetime. But always ask, you can ask the angels, protect me and let me see if this is true or not, and you can ask the same question several times until if it's different or they say, don't ask me again that question, because the light is always loving. They will never tell you, oh, shut up. That's not the light. It will never tell you, shut up. So ask the same question. Ask the same question several times. Ask your heart to validate that information.
What about contacting your spirit guides? There's a lot of people are talking more about that publicly. And so I wanted to ask you any advice you have for people that are listening that are getting into meditation, opening up spiritually, and maybe want to contact their spirit guides. That can be a source for them for information and protection.
You can always ask, what is the name of my spirit guide, and you can ask them. If I don't hear it during daytime, tell me at night what is my spirit guide. But if not, Akashic records are excellent for that. Through Akashic records, you will know who has been protecting all your information, because the Akashic records are protected by angels. So
Can
you
you
can
talk
ask.
about what those are? Because there's a lot of people who may not know what Akashic records are. Can you explain that?
Yeah, well, the Akashic records are the history of all your lifetime. It includes all your lifetimes, all the information since your spirit was created by God. And it actually is in our aura, it's in our one of our bodies that we have. All the information is we have it. So they are like, literally, they are like books, even though I was a skeptic at the first time. But when I contact them and I ask them, you know I want to clear this part of my life, because before I was incarnated in this lifetime, I was like, twice I was a prisoner of war. Then I was an
Mm.
Indian American. And then I was once a slave, a black man, and I was a slave, and then I was a woman. So there was a lot of pain in my past lives. And I went to and I told them, I want to clear this karma. Is it karma, this pain, whatever it is, I want to clear it. So, and then I was able, because we do everything with our eyes closed. And I was able to see that the books were moving like this very, very fast. It was
Mm.
interesting that the books were moving. Like, I was asking them, I want to clear this. I want to ask for forgiveness, whatever this was. Why did I go through these very painful experiences? I want to ask for forgiveness. I want to clear this in my life. And I saw, I closed my eyes and I saw the books moving like fast, very, very fast. I was like
Mm.
fascinated to see the books. I was, wow, they are really books. I thought it was just like a myth about books.
What did that feel like to have that? Because as you're talking, I'm envisioning this. I mean, what are you feeling as you are experiencing that?
Well, in some way, I was very happy because I was able to see those books and to validate the information that other people were talking about, right? Because they say they are books. The Akashic records are our books of life. That's all the information that is being recorded. So I was like, wow, I was skeptical. And then when that happened, I was like, wow, God is showing me, yeah, there are real books, Olga. So I was happy to see them, and I felt relieved that I was allowed to see that, to see that. And it's just a feeling of peace. I just felt a lot of peace.
Hmm. And what would you say to someone about why it's important to open themselves up spiritually and go on this journey, even if at times it can be scary and or daunting?
Uh, well, opening it up to spirit is always important because we are, as I mentioned, incarnated spirits. But if you decide to go on this path, it's not an easy path because it's, as Mother Mary has told me, the road is very narrow. It's very narrow. You cannot have the wide road. Not, it's very narrow. And once you decide to serve the light, that's it. You cannot change your mind. Or you can maybe, I don't know, but then it has a price to change your mind probably. So they have to be sure that this is what they want to do. Just they need to be sure that they will follow this path no matter what, no matter what you see, what you feel, because there will be difficult times. Like I was, you will be tested if you can handle, the dark side. You will be tested and you will be alone, and because that they leave you alone to test that, and it's hard. It's hard. I was tested, and I was like, for 3 days I had this horrible spirit, this darkness that it was testing me, and I was calling God and my angels, please help me, and nothing happened. And it was opening like a lot of labyrinths and changing faces, and it was very hard for me. And but then at the end I was able to, and it's so, in some way it's so simple, but I in my mind it came like, I told this spirit, I am love in you. Something like that. I am love. I
Mhm.
am loving you, and then it disappeared, Nicole. When I said that, it's like, that is strong. Is love, When
Yeah.
you really use the word love, which probably is God, because God is love. When I use that word after 3 days of struggling how to handle this, because it only happened at night.
Mhm.
Finally I was able to get rid of it, and that's how I did it. I was telling this spirit, I am love, I am loving you, I am love, I am love, and it was gone forever.
Wow. So
Yeah.
love and light conquers darkness.
Yes. Yes.
And I mhm.
No, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to because I know I wanted to, there's so many more avenues that we can go in this conversation, and I hope that we can talk again. But just to kind of wrap things up a bit, before we started this interview, and we were talking about some things that you felt were very important to discuss before we ended our this first conversation, and you mentioned just the word rain. You want to talk about rain.
Well,
Tell
it's,
me what you
it's very
can you go
important.
deeper into that?
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah, and of course we can have another conversation. It's very important to know that this year Mother Earth is cleansing. So just be aware of water, bodies of water near you, and not only water, also, there's going to be earthquakes. I don't know if you remember that at the beginning of the year there were a lot of earthquakes in Greece. It was in one of the islands that is very famous for tourism. It was, I don't remember the name right now, but there were like hundreds of earthquakes. Literally, they had to evacuate the island because they felt unsafe. There was earthquakes every single day, and they felt they were gonna probably go to the sea. So they were evacuating the island. And it's because Mother Earth was cleansing all the emotions, because close to that area are all the places where women have been repressed tremendously. So Mother Earth was cleansing, all the pain she has felt through those women. So there were a lot of, because when Mother Earth cleanses, we don't know how is she, she moves, what happens, there's an earthquake if she moves. So we have to be aware and just ask Mother Earth, protect us, help us, understanding that you are cleansing, that you want the best for us. That's why you are cleansing, You are cleansing so we can cleanse ourselves too. That's why it's so important to take care of our bodies this year. It's not going to be an easy year because she's cleansing herself, but also it's very important to understand that we have had like 2000 years of male energy. It's a time to balance it, not just feminine, but we need to balance it. We need to balance it in ourselves too, because we
Mm,
have male and female hormones. We are both. So we need to balance this energy this year, start balancing, not just allow the hatred, to happen. We need to balance it with love. Why am I feeling this? If I'm feeling anger, what happened? Release those emotions. Well, maybe something happened to me, but balance it with love. Don't allow that we, you know, kind of give that energy to somebody else. We are cleansing. The Mother Earth is cleansing, so we need to cleanse ourselves. So that's very important to know this year. Do not be afraid of the water or the earthquakes. It's just, let's just pray that there will be peace. Not like the Master Jesus say, peace be with me, peace be with me, or be peace on earth. So we calm that situation. You follow those wise words like peace be with me,
peace.
peace.
That
Yeah.
that's a powerful word. And just I thought of one more thing as you were talking. A lot of people right now are it seems like more people are opening themselves up spiritually, and they're talking about it in a very open fashion. I mean, you and I are having this conversation, and a lot of people, where the social media, people are talking about this. Can you talk about how much power is in that when you've got a wide swath of human beings on this planet that have opened up to that vibration and are leaning into that peace and love that you're talking about?
Well, right now, things are changing on planet Earth. As you know, last year, the door to the Aquarius area started to open. So this is we are leaving Pisces behind, where there were secrets, everything was closed doors. Now everything is on the open, everything. And that energy that Aquarius is bringing us is precisely so we are going to grow. It's very fast. Our growth is very fast right now. People are gonna be having their abilities open, and they're gonna be able to develop them very fast. More, before it was very slow. Now it's gonna be very fast because we are giving that opportunity to be in the light. We are definitely giving that opportunity, and this is a great time for us to be in the light, to follow God, to say, yes, I will work with you. I will work for you. I always tell God, like if we are in a football team, I tell God, I'm on your team. I'm always on your team. Just to, I'm on your team. So this is a great opportunity for us to develop, to understand that the light is here, and it is helping us to move, to open up to spiritually, because we are spiritual beings. So it's
You
it's
most
a
definitely
great
are.
time. Yeah, it's a great
Wonderful.
time.
And with that, we will wrap it up. Again, thank you, Olga, for having this conversation with me. And I hope that we have many more just like this. And for those of you who are watching and are listening, if you like this kind of spiritual content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.